Officer Zixnax of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force GPF had seen a lot in his 237 cycles of service. He'd broken up interstellar bar fights, mediated disputes between warring factions of hyper-intelligent gas clouds, and even once arrested a sentient black hole for tax evasion. But nothing could have prepared him for the day he encountered a human parent on a mission. It was just another mundane shift on Space Station Omega-9, a bustling hub of interspecies commerce and cultural exchange. The station, a marvel of engineering, hung in space like a giant metallic snowflake, its gleaming spires and docking arms reaching out into the inky void. Zixnax, with his iridescent exoskeleton and compound eyes that would make a kaleidoscope jealous, was making his usual rounds. His partner, Officer Blurp, a gelatinous blob with a badge somehow adhered to its amorphous form, squelched along beside him. "I tell ya," Zix Blurp gurgled, a sound not unlike a toilet being unclogged. "These shifts are getting longer than a Cronenbergian mating ritual." Zixnax's antennae twitched in agreement. "Indeed, my amorphous friend. Though I must say, your analogies are becoming increasingly viscous." Blurp's entire body jiggled in what passed for laughter among his species. "Hey, when you're basically sentient jello, everything's viscous." Their banter was interrupted by a commotion near the station's central atrium. A crowd had gathered, a multicolored throng of beings from across the galaxy. In the center stood, or rather, hopped a Vraxian merchant, all 6 of its legs moving in an agitated dance. "Officers, thank the cosmic overmind you're here," the Vraxian chirped, its beak-like mouth clacking rapidly. This Deathworld is trying to kill me." Zixnax and Blurp exchanged a look. Well, Zixnax looked. Blurp just sort of wobbled in his direction. Deathworlders were rare on Omega-9, their homeworld's high gravity and harsh conditions making them unnerving to most galactic citizens. Pushing through the crowd, the officers found themselves face to face with a human. She stood there, arms crossed, foot tapping an impatient rhythm on the station's polished floor. Her eyes, a startling shade of green, narrowed as she saw the officers approach. She was of average height for a human, which still made her tower over many of the station's other inhabitants. Her brown hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the practical, slightly rumpled clothes of someone who had been traveling for a while. "About time," she said, her voice dripping with more sarcasm than a Sarkasian's graduation speech. "I was beginning to think I'd have to solve this myself. Although, given the stellar speed of your response, that might have been quicker." Zixnax's mandibles clicked in annoyance. We've received reports that you were threatening this merchant. Care to explain?" The human's eyebrow arched so high it threatened to achieve orbit. "Threatening? Oh, honey, if I were threatening him, he'd know it. No, what I'm doing is trying to get this overgrown grasshopper to honor the warranty on the hoverboard he sold my daughter." At the mention of her daughter, the human's eyes darted to the side. For the first time, Zixnax noticed a smaller human partially hidden behind her mother's legs. The child's eyes were red-rimmed, her cheeks stained with dried tears. She clutched a stuffed animal, some sort of long-necked, spotted creature that Zixnax vaguely recalled from his xenozoology classes. The Vraxian merchant, still hopping mad literally, interjected, "Warranty? Bah! I told you, all sales are final. It's not my fault your spawn couldn't handle a simple grade 3 hoverboard." The mother's eyes flashed dangerously. "Listen here, you 6-legged swindler. That simple hoverboard of yours malfunctioned mid-flight. My daughter fell 3 stories. If it wasn't for the grav net, she cut herself off, taking a deep breath. Look, all I want is for you to replace it with a properly functioning model. Is that so hard?" Zixnax, sensing the tension rising faster than a Plutonian souffle, decided to intervene. "Perhaps we can reach a compromise? Vraxian merchant, surely you have some form of customer satisfaction policy." The Vraxian's antenna twitched irritably. "Policy? My policy is to make money, not friends. The Deathworlder spawn should have read the fine print. Not suitable for use in gravity fields exceeding 0.8 G. It's not my fault humans insist on living in such extreme conditions." The human mother let out a laugh that could have curdled milk in a different star system. "Oh, that's rich coming from someone who probably considers a gentle breeze a catastrophic weather event. Tell me, do you bubble wrap yourself before leaving the house each day?" Burp, who had been silently observing as much as a blob can observe anything, suddenly burbled, Guys, I hate to interrupt this fascinating xenobiological debate, but Where's the kid? All eyes turned to where the young human had been standing. The space was now conspicuously empty. The mother's face drained of color faster than a chameleon at a disco. Lily, Lily. And that's when all hell broke loose. Now, when a human parent realizes their child is missing, it triggers a response that makes a supernova look like a sparkler. The mother's eyes widened, her nostrils flared, and for a brief moment, Zix-Nax could have sworn he saw flames dancing in her irises. Where is she? The mother demanded, her voice a mixture of panic and barely contained rage. If anything's happened to her, I swear I'll cope. Ma'am, Zix-Nax interjected, trying to maintain some semblance of order. Please remain calm. We'll initiate a station-wide search immediately. The human turned to him, her gaze so intense that Zix-Nax felt his exoskeleton might melt. Calm? Calm? My 6-year-old daughter is missing on a space station the size of Manhattan, filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy, some of whom probably think humans are a delicacy, and you want me to be calm. Blurp, in an impressive display of gelatinous empathy, oozed closer to the distraught mother. We understand your concern, but panic won't help us find your daughter. Can you describe what she was wearing? The mother took a deep breath, visibly trying to compose herself. She's wearing a pink jumpsuit with silver stars. Her hair is in pigtails, and she's carrying a stuffed earth animal. A giraffe. Zix-Nax's antennae perked up. A giraffe. Is that the improbably long-necked creature that looks like it was assembled by a committee? The look the mother gave him could have frozen helium. Yes, that's the one. Can we focus on finding my daughter now, or would you like a full zoological lecture? Properly chastised, Zix-Nax activated his comm unit. Attention all GPF officers on Omega-9. We have a missing human child. Female, approximately 1 meter tall, pink clothing, carrying a stuffed, long-necked earth creature. Consider her potentially in danger. All available units respond. As the alert went out, the mother was already on the move, her eyes scanning every nook and cranny of the sprawling atrium. Zix-Nax and Blurp hurried to keep up, the latter leaving a slight trail of slime in his wake. Zix-Nax called out, his multiple legs clicking rapidly on the station's floor. We really should coordinate our efforts. The station is vast and... Listen, Officer Bugsy, the mother cut him off, not even bothering to look back. I appreciate your help, but I'm not about to sit around filing reports while my daughter is out there alone. You do your thing, and I'll do mine. Blurp gurgled in what might have been admiration. You've got to hand it to these Deathworlders. They don't mess around when it comes to their young. Zix-Nax nodded, his compound eyes taking in the determined set of the human's shoulders. Indeed, it's almost admirable, in a terrifyingly intense sort of way. As they moved through the station, the unlikely trio drew curious stares from the diverse array of beings going about their daily business. A group of Andromedans, their tentacles entwined in a gossip circle, quickly unraveled as the human mother barreled past. A pair of Zagonian merchants, their crystalline bodies chiming softly as they moved, paused in their haggling to watch the spectacle. Lily, she called out, her voice echoing off the station's curved walls. Lily, sweetheart, where are you? They searched through the bustling marketplace, where stalls selling everything from quantum-entangled jewelry to time-displaced fruit lined the walkways. The mother's eyes darted from stall to stall, her expression a mix of hope and fear with each new face she encountered. Next, they combed through the entertainment district, where holographic advertisements for shows featuring acts from across the galaxy flickered and danced. The pulsing beats of alien music and the chatter of 1,000 different languages created a cacophony that threatened to drown out their calls. As they passed by a dimly lit bar, a gruff voice called out, "Hey, you looking for a small human? Pink clothes." The mother whirled around so fast she nearly knocked over a passing Mercurian who, being made mostly of liquid metal, simply reformed himself with an indignant gurgle. "Yes, have you seen her?" The speaker, a grizzled Orlean with more eyes than seemed strictly necessary, nodded towards a side corridor. "Saw a little one headed that way not long ago. Seemed in a hurry." Without waiting for her alien companions, the mother took off down the indicated path, her feet barely seeming to touch the ground as she ran. Zix-Nax and Blurp exchanged a quick glance before hurrying after her. The side corridor led them to one of the station's less frequented areas, a series of storage bays and maintenance access points. The mother's pace didn't slow as she weaved between stacked crates and humming machinery. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream cut through the ambient noise of the station. The mother froze for a split second, her entire body tensing like a coiled spring. Then, without warning, she took off at a sprint that would have made a cheetah question its life choices. Zixnax and Blurp exchanged a panicked look again, as much as a blob can look panicked, and hurried after her. They rounded a corner to find themselves in one of the station's hydroponics bays, a lush green space filled with plants from 100 different worlds. And there, dangling precariously from a branch of a Venusian snaptrap, a plant notorious for its carnivorous tendencies and poor impulse control, was little Lily. "Mummy," the girl cried. Her stuffed giraffe clutched tightly to her chest with one hand, while the other clung desperately to the branch. The Venusian snaptrap, sensing a potential meal, was slowly curling its razor-sharp leaves around the child. Its vibrant purple flowers, usually so beautiful, now looked menacing as they pulsed with anticipation. Now, most beings, when faced with a notorious carnivorous plant from one of the most inhospitable planets in the galaxy, would do the sensible thing: run screaming in the opposite direction, perhaps pausing only to update their will. But not a human parent. Oh no! The mother's eyes narrowed, focusing on the deadly plant with the kind of intensity usually reserved for laser cutters and angry cats. Without a moment's hesitation, she charged forward. Wait," Zixnax called out, his mandibles clicking in alarm. "That's a Venusian snaptrap. Its acidic sap can melt through durasteel." The mother, without breaking stride, shot back over her shoulder. "Oh yeah? Well, it's about to learn what happens when it messes with a mom from New Jersey." Blurp, in a rare moment of solid form, solidified enough to face palm or face blob, as it were. "This is going to end badly, isn't it?" Zixnax, his compound eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fascination, could only nod. "I believe, my gelatinous friend, that we're about to witness either the most impressive or the most disastrous rescue attempt in GPF history." The human mother, meanwhile, had reached the base of the Venusian snaptrap. The plant, sensing a larger meal approaching, momentarily loosened its grip on Lily, some of its leaves turning towards this new potential feast. "Big mistake, you overgrown weed," the mother growled, her voice dripping with more venom than the plant could ever hope to produce. With a move that defied both gravity and common sense, she leapt, grabbing onto one of the lower branches. The plant, not used to its meals fighting back Venusian wildlife, having long ago learned to give these things a wide berth, seemed almost confused. "Lily, honey," the mother called out, her voice strained but steady. "I need you to be brave for me, okay? When I say now, I want you to let go and jump towards me. Can you do that, sweetheart?" Lily, her eyes wide with fear, but trusting in her mother, nodded. Zixnax, watching from what he hoped was a safe distance, felt his exoskeleton prickle with anticipation. "This is madness," he muttered. "Absolutely bonkers. Crazy. Insane. Loco. Verrucht. What other synonyms for utterly bananas do humans use?" The Blurp, who had taken on a slightly greenish tinge, whether from fear or nausea was unclear, gurgled, "I think batshit is popular among them. Though I've never understood what excrement from flying mammals has to do with insanity." Their linguistic musings were interrupted by the mother's shout. "Now, Lily." Time seemed to slow down. Lily, summoning courage that belied her young age, let go of the branch and launched herself towards her mother. The Venusian snaptrap, realizing its meal was escaping, lashed out with its leaves. The mother, moving with the kind of grace and precision that would make Olympic gymnasts weep with envy, swung on her branch, one arm outstretched. Her hand closed around Lily's wrist, just as one of the plant's leaves sliced through the air where the girl had been moments before. "Gotcha," the mother exclaimed, pulling Lily close. But their ordeal wasn't over. The snaptrap, enraged at losing its meal, began thrashing wildly, its acid-coated leaves whipping through the air. Zixnax, his every instinct screaming at him to run far, far away, preferably to another galaxy, found himself moving forward instead. "This is Officer Zixnax," he spoke into his comm, his voice only slightly higher pitched than usual. "We need emergency botanical containment in Hydroponics Bay 7. And maybe a flamethrower, possibly a small tactical nuke." Blurp, not to be outdone by his exoskeletal partner, extended a pseudopod towards a nearby control panel. With a series of squishy beeps, he activated the bay's emergency sprinkler system. Water rained down on the scene, causing the Venusian snaptrap to hiss and recoil. Its leaves, so deadly when dry, became heavy and sluggish as they absorbed the moisture. Seizing the opportunity, the mother swung down from the branch, Lily clutched tightly to her chest. She hit the ground running, not stopping until she was well clear of the plant's reach. As Zixnax and Blurp rushed over, they found the human pair locked in an embrace, both laughing and crying in equal measure. "Oh," Lily the mother was saying, peppering her daughter's face with kisses, "don't you ever scare me like that again. What were you thinking, wandering off like that?" Lily, her face buried in her mother's shoulder, mumbled something incoherent. "What was that, sweetie?" The girl pulled back slightly, her lower lip trembling. I wanted to find a new hoverboard, to show you I could be careful. I'm sorry, Mummy." The mother's expression softened, a mix of exasperation and love that Zixnax found utterly fascinating. "Oh, honey, you don't need to prove anything to me. I love you, hoverboard skills and all. Just, maybe we stick to roller skates for a while, okay?" Lily nodded, then turned to look at the still thrashing snaptrap. That plant was mean. The mother laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. "Yeah, it was. But you know what? It's got nothing on your mum." Zixnax, feeling it was safe to approach now that no one was in immediate danger of being digested, cleared his throat or whatever passed for a throat in his species. That was. "Well, I'm not sure if I should arrest you for reckless endangerment or recommend you for a medal." The mother stood up. Lily balanced on her hip and turned to face the officers. Her eyes, still bright with adrenaline, held a mischievous glint. "Why, officer, if I didn't know better, I'd say you were impressed." Blurp, who had been unusually quiet for a being whose normal state of communication involved constant bubbling, finally spoke up. "Impressed? Lady, you just went toe-to-toe with a Venusian snaptrap and lived to tell the tale. Impressed doesn't even begin to cover it." The mother grinned, an expression that somehow managed to be both sheepish and smugly satisfied at the same time. "Well, when you put it that way, I guess it was pretty badass." She turned to her daughter, adopting a mock stern expression. "But don't you dare repeat that word, young lady. At least not until you're old enough to wrestle carnivorous plants yourself." Lily giggled, her earlier terror seemingly forgotten in the wake of her mother's bravado. "Can we get ice cream now, Mum? I think we deserve it after beating up a mean plant." The mother laughed, a sound that seemed to brighten the entire hydroponics bay. "You know what? I think we do." But first she turned back to the officers, her expression sobering slightly. "I believe we have some unfinished business with a certain Vraxian merchant." Zixnax's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. "Indeed we do, ma'am, though I have a feeling our friend might be a bit more accommodating now." As they made their way back to the central atrium, leaving behind a very confused and somewhat traumatized Venusian snaptrap, Zixnax couldn't help but ponder the events of the day. He'd seen beings from across the galaxy face all manner of challenges, but never had he witnessed such a display of raw determination and protective instinct. The Vraxian merchant was exactly where they'd left him, still hopping from leg to leg in agitation. However, as soon as he caught sight of the approaching group, particularly the slightly damp but very much alive human pair, all 6 of his legs seemed to lose their strength at once. "You're back," he stammered, his beak clacking nervously. "And intact." The mother's smile was sweeter than Arcturian honey and about 10 times as dangerous. "Oh yes, we're back, and now that we've had such an invigorating adventure, I think it's time we revisited our little discussion about customer satisfaction, don't you?" The Vraxian's compound eyes darted frantically between the human, the child, and the 2 GPF officers. Zixnax could almost see the gears turning in the merchant's head as he calculated his odds. That is, perhaps I was a bit hasty earlier," the Vraxian began, his voice taking on a conciliatory tone. "Customer satisfaction is, of course, our highest priority. Why don't we take a look at that hoverboard again? I'm sure we can find a suitable upgrade." The mother nodded, her smile never wavering. "That sounds wonderful. And while we're at it, why don't we discuss your store's policy on safety features? I have some ideas I think you'll find enlightening." As the human led the now very cooperative Vraxian towards his shop, Lily still perched on her hip, Zixnax and Blurp watched in amazement. "You know," Blurp gurgled thoughtfully, "I've always wondered why humans are classified as Deathworlders. I mean, sure, their planet has some harsh conditions, but is it really that bad? Zix-Nax's mandibles clicked in what might have been a chuckle. My gelatinous friend, I think we've been looking at it all wrong. It's not the planet that makes humans Deathworlders. It's the humans that make the planet a Deathworld. Blurp's entire body rippled in agreement. Fair point. Remind me never to get between a human and their offspring. I like my molecules arranged exactly as they are. Thank you very much. As they watched the human mother deftly negotiate with the Vraxian, securing not just a new hoverboard, but also a comprehensive safety package and a lifetime warranty, Zix-Nax felt a newfound respect blooming in his thorax. You know, he mused, I think I finally understand that old human saying. What was it again? Hell hath no fury like a mother protecting her child, Blurp supplied helpfully. Zix-Nax's antennae twitched in affirmation. That's the one. Though after today I think we might need to update it. Hell hath no fury like a human mother facing down a carnivorous plant to save her child. Blurp jiggled in what passed for laughter among his species. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but it's certainly more accurate. As the day wound down, and the excitement finally began to ebb, Zix-Nax found himself approaching the human pair one last time. The mother was sitting on a bench near the atrium's central fountain, Lily curled up against her side, happily licking an ice cream cone that seemed to defy several laws of physics in its construction. Ma and Zix-Nax began, feeling uncharacteristically nervous. I just wanted to say. Well, that is. The mother looked up at him, one eyebrow raised in amusement. Spit it out, officer. I promise I don't bite. Unlike some plants we could mention. Zix-Nax's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of embarrassment in his species. I wanted to apologize for underestimating you earlier, and to thank you. Thank me, the mother asked, genuinely surprised. For what? Nearly giving you an aneurysm with my reckless plant wrestling. Zix-Nax shook his head, his iridescent exoskeleton shimmering in the station's artificial light. For reminding me why we do this job, it's easy to get caught up in the bureaucracy, the paperwork, the endless regulations. But today you showed me what it really means to protect and serve. It's not about following rules, it's about doing whatever it takes to keep people safe. The mother's expression softened, a genuine smile replacing her earlier sarcastic grin. Well, when you put it that way, I guess we're not so different after all. Though I bet your job doesn't usually involve quite so much foliage. Zix-Nax laughed, a chittering sound that drew curious glances from passers-by. No, thankfully carnivorous plants are not a daily occurrence. Though after today, I might need to brush up on my botanical combat skills. Lily, who had been listening to the conversation with the intense focus only a child can muster, suddenly piped up. Mr. Alien Officer, sir, do you think I could be a space cop when I grow up? Zix-Nax looked at the young human, her face still smeared with ice cream, and her eyes shining with innocence and determination. In that moment, he saw not just a child, but a future filled with possibilities, a future where humans and aliens worked side by side, facing whatever dangers the universe might throw at them. Young Lily, he said solemnly, dropping down to her eye level, I have no doubt that you could be anything you set your mind to. Though perhaps we should work on your plant avoiding skills first. Lily giggled, nodding enthusiastically. Deal. And I promise not to wander off again. At least not until I'm big enough to wrestle alien plants myself. The mother groaned good-naturedly. Oh great, now you've given her ideas. Next thing you know, she'll be asking for pet Venusian snaptraps. As Zix-Nax bid farewell to the human pair, watching as they made their way towards the station's residential sector, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. The galaxy was vast and often dangerous, filled with beings and cultures so diverse they sometimes seemed incompatible. But today had shown him that when it came to the things that really mattered, love, family, the willingness to face any danger to protect those we care about, perhaps they weren't so different after all. Blurp oozed up beside him, his gelatinous form reflecting the colorful lights of the atrium. Quite a day, her partner. Zix-Nax nodded, his compound eyes still fixed on the retreating figures of the mother and child. Indeed it was, my friend. Indeed it was. So Blurp burbled mischievously, think we should update the GPF manual. Add a section on what to do when a human parent goes full mama bear on a carnivorous plant. Zix-Nax's antennae twitched in amusement. I have a better idea. Why don't we just add a simple warning in case of emergency, find the nearest human parent? Then stand back and watch the magic happen. As they turned to continue their patrol, both officers couldn't help but feel that the galaxy had become a slightly smaller, slightly warmer place, and if they kept a closer eye on the hydroponics bay from that day forward, well, who could blame them? After all, in a universe full of wonders and terrors, it was comforting to know that there were still forces out there that could make even the most fearsome creatures think twice. And if those forces happened to come in the form of a 5-foot-nothing human mother armed with nothing but love and determination, well, that was just another day in the endless adventure of intergalactic peacekeeping.